Hi, everybody. I'm just going to start my presentation on a bit of a super awkward note. Well, awkward because I'm a little bit nervous, and also awkward because Justin couldn't be here today. He works for a company called BP, and so he asked us if we could do the presentation on his behalf, which of course is no problem, except they went on to say, hey, you know what, we're a little bit sensitive about this project. If you could just be careful about how much you share, maybe crop out anything sensitive. And also, don't mention us by name, you know, or that the project's for us. So if everybody could just go ahead and forget the company that Justin works for, that would help keep me out of trouble. It's pretty easy, it's only 2 letters. So that's my awkward introduction. Secondly, before I get into the case study and sort of explaining what we did for them and why, I just wanted to do a little bit of a level set about who we are as a company. Obviously, we have a booth here. I'm talking to a lot of different people. It's interesting people understand, like, what is game technology, what is a game engine, you know, and why is it relevant? And that's a completely fair question to ask. So just quickly, I'll just take a minute here to cover it. Unity is the #1 game development environment for video game makers in the world. So it's software that people use to make games. And our reach is significant. I think it's something like 60 to 70% of all games are made with Unity. And if you've ever played with a HoloLens or a virtual reality device, that number increases considerably. It's almost like 70 to 80%. So it's a very ubiquitous tool in the world of game makers. And if you look around the room, you know, you can see people kind of looking at their phones. They're probably playing a game right now. They're the ones with their mouths half open, and it's probably Candy Crush. So, I mean, that's all fine, you know. The point is, video games are a big deal. Maybe you go play games yourself, but you probably know someone who does. And the second part of that question is, well, you know, why is video games relevant to digital transformation? And if you think about it, what is a multiplayer game? Well, it's a bunch of people exchanging data in real time through the internet. There's rules and physics and that kind of thing. There's security and authentication. And the experience is agnostic. So whether I'm using my Android phone, you're on a Samsung tablet, someone else is on a laptop, the experience is all the same. So basically, all of the architecture that would go into supporting that delivery is the same architecture that we would use to deliver maintenance planning, multi-person experience for engineers. So it's a very relevant technology for that reason. And we've solved that problem already for millions of games and literally hundreds of millions of game players across the world as we speak. And so the application for that in industry is pretty obvious, and it's not just in energy. We're seeing it also in all sorts of industries across the world. So as we get into the case study for the unnamed customer, I just want to touch on a few things that we did for them and why they use our platform. And the presentation is less on the aesthetics of the project and the look and feel, and it's more about kind of the rationale behind it. And so in this case, the customer had built a digital twin maintenance planning tool using our technology themselves, and it was cool, you know, good for them. And they had some good case studies in mind, and they're kind of taking it places. And they came to us and said, hey, you know, we need to accelerate this to get, you know, more buy-in, from our stakeholders. And so we asked them, okay, well, what do you need to do? And so basically, they wanted to leverage our solution and our technology as the architects of it to make it go a lot faster. And part of that was building a data ingest pipeline. Another part of it was improving the user experience, which is very important. But ultimately, they wanted to take advantage of some of our, you know, modular architecture. And so, for example, like, we want to turn this into a multiplayer experience. So we were able to bolt on what we call it presence, but basically it just means like the ability to have voice chat and collaboration, you know, presenter modes, this kind of stuff. I can send someone a link and say, hey, meet me in the generator room, and we're going to go and draw some circles around valves. And it was all very much in a way that was conducive with the data infrastructure and the architecture that they had, in this case, it was Azure. And so, yeah, we were able to do that for them, and because of the nature of our technology, it wasn't as simple as, but it was pretty much as straightforward as being able to bolt those services on and connect all that together. And in so doing, we're providing a new way of helping the customer explain to their internal stakeholders and their internal leadership where this is all going, what this digital transformation is enabling them to do, and it's helping them change how they think about data and their kind of goals of the future. And when you start to think about, the benefit of that, ultimately this customer understood that we can go out and we can buy digital twin solutions. And, they're considerable levels of effort. They're like 7-figure investments, but they don't necessarily scale that well. And it's expensive if it costs you, millions of dollars every time you want to deploy a new digital twin. It's not really very repeatable. So they're drawn to our technology because the way that we architect our solutions makes it a lot easier to do that, to the point where eventually you could actually reduce that cost from 7 figures down to like a low reasonable 6 figures, and it's a much easier lift and shift to be able to repeat it for new facilities. And in so doing, that also meets their scalable vision of the future. The customer had looked at a lot of different solutions, and a big part of their digital transformation strategy was like they understood that a black box solution that's highly proprietary, that doesn't connect to anything, it doesn't play nice, is not really ideal for them. Their vision of digital transformation in the future says that they want these solutions to be able to speak to each other. Unity is not the miracle solution to every problem that you have, but that's fine, we're not trying to be. But it has to be a connected systems of systems, and to make it easier for them to build these types of applications on their own is something that's hugely attractive to them. So a little bit about the why. So our architecture is inherently designed with composability and extensibility in mind. And as I said, we're helping them march towards that goal of simplifying the digital twin applications in the future to the point where you don't need to be a Unity developer or an expert in coding to be able to do this. And they have a vision of what they call citizen development, or like basically low, no-code solutions, so that it's almost drop and drag at that point. And while the technology to do that isn't quite there yet, obviously putting all of this infrastructure in place and basically creating a sandbox development environment for them enabled them to understand the potential for the future and explain to the leadership, okay, the investment to get us to this point is X, but in the future it's going to be a lot less because it's much more modular. And most importantly, like for them, they didn't want the burden of having to support this tool or have their own developers in-house or having to have a big team that it costs to maintain this platform. When they're using the Unity solution, because this is our business, as we improve and update and make changes to our platform, those benefits are passed along to the customer. So in a sense, we're the mechanics of the solution, and we just make it super easy for them to build their own custom application that just sits on top of all of that. So I think the takeaway from this for me, I think, is very much that the digital transformation strategy is very much contingent, I think, on understanding how and where you want the data to work and make it work for you. And Unity is a great solution to do that. As I said, it's not the silver bullet, it's not the magical everything. But in this case, at least it allowed this customer to move their agenda forward. And that's basically that.